Stevenage are a club that have been on quite a remarkable journey, really, over the last few years because only circumstances elsewhere in English football saved them their Football League status in 2020. In 2020, there you go, and it was a bit of a bit of luck, I suppose, but they had a season under Alex Revell the following season, but it didn't quite work out for him the year after, and certainly not with Paul Tisdale. But then they appointed Steve Evans, who kept the club up in 21-22, who won promotion with them the following season after completely rebuilding the squad, delivered a ninth place finish last season. But then he left for Rotherham and was replaced by Alex Revell for his second stint as manager. And he's come back a slightly more wise and matured version of Alex Revell, who I'm sure has learned a lot from Steve Evans, certainly from a tactical and technical point of view, but has also brought some soft skills to the job, and certainly has a great relationship with the players from what we can gather. And so it's been a pretty solid first season in charge for Alex Revell of his second stint. He's got his feet under the desk, and now he's going to be hoping to build a squad that can challenge within the top half of League One, and who knows, maybe even try and have a go at threatening the playoffs. It's a bit of a big ask for little old Stevenage in League One, but whereas the name doesn't carry a huge amount of stature, if you like, and prestige at this level, they do probably have a bit more external investment under Phil Wallace than many outsiders might recognise. So what's possible for Stevenage this season? That's what we're going to discuss in this Summer Deep Dive. Yes, welcome along to EFL Debate. This is one of 72 summer deep dives we're doing, covering each of the 72 clubs between mid-June and mid-July. So if you want more of that good stuff, you can do us a massive favour by getting subscribed to us on YouTube and on Spotify. That would really help us out. Delighted to be joined by my guest this morning, live from Spain. It's Mr. Matt Farley from the Stevenage Football Club podcast. How are you, Matt? Good morning.
Get it on there, Gab. There we go. Look at that. How are you, man?
I'm very well, thanks. And you're joining us live from, there's a place in Spain that I've forgotten how to pronounce.
Fuerteventura. Well, I think that's how it is anyway.
There you go. You enjoyed your bit of sun so far?
Yeah, it's been really good, mate. We got out here. When did we get out here? Last Wednesday. So Wednesday the 18th. And it's been really, really nice. I'm just on the balcony at the minute. The Boro towel was up, but the wind's blown it onto the floor, so I'm going to pick that up again. But no, it's been really good, mate. We've had a really, really good time, we've just been chilling. Really, I think the word is just chilling, eating what I want, drinking what I want, and just kind of recharging the batteries and becoming refreshed. But I've got to be honest though, every day that I'm sitting by the pool on my sunbed, I'm so excited for this season. And Gab, it's the season I've been most excited for.
Oh no! You always say this,
man. I just really believe in this team that we're building in this league. But no, it's been a great holiday. I've got another 6 days, so I'm out here when the fixtures come out. Oddly, we come back next Monday, so we're halfway through the holiday. But yeah, it's been really good, really good.
Oh, lovely stuff. Matt, I'm hearing a little bit of crackle back that I didn't pick up on the podcast. I don't know if you're able to go without the earpods and see if that takes away some of the crackle. I couldn't quite get that the first time around. You seem to have frozen on the screen as well. So perfect.
Am I back?
You what? Sorry?
Am I back? Am I back now?
Yeah, I can hear you. The screen's frozen slightly. So that's perfect timing. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. I wanted to ask you, Matt. We'll kind of persevere for now. What are your sort of reflections on Alex Revell's first season of his second stint in charge?
I think with Alex, look, it was really, really simple for us. We just wanted to get him kind of over the line, if that makes sense. And I think with Alex, we know that there's potential for Revs to be a brilliant manager with us, but it was all about that first season, getting over the line, and staying up and consolidating at the level, because we know that as years go on, he's going to get better as a manager. So I think that was really, really important. And look, he did it. He learned a lot last year. You know, you've got to think as well. It's not just Alex Revell. You know, Scott Cuthbert's new to the role that he's in as coach. So it was that management team, really. It was their kind of first crack at the egg. So I think they did brilliantly. A 14th place finish, really clear of the bottom four. I thought it was a really positive first tenure for Revs, and we see potential now over these next couple of seasons. So I'm very excited to see what he can do.
Absolutely. Matt, are you able to find somewhere where the internet connection is a bit more stable? Because I didn't pick up on this when we were chatting off air beforehand, but
let me try. Let me try and.
Nice one. So while Matt's doing that, I mean, one thing I'm really curious about in terms of Stevenage is a kind of the structure, because I think Matt was spot on when he mentioned the strength of the collective, if you like. It's not just Alex Revell. Scott Cuthbert was mentioned as well, Neil Banfield as well. I think Leon Hunter has been a really important part of the club's rise as well as director of football. Not very public facing, so probably doesn't get a huge amount of external credit for that. But as a day-to-day operation, Matt, Stevenage seemed to be pretty strong. Oh, sorry, you're on mute now. I can't quite hear you there. It should work. Oh, gosh. Audio, camera. Can you hear me, Matt? Okay, so Matt can hear me. All right, so I've absolutely not got a clue. I'm not a very technical person, so I don't know if it's possible to... Are you able to try on another device, Matt? Okay, so Matt's going to come back on his phone, perhaps, or a tablet or something like that. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I think Leon Hunter, I don't think you can underestimate his influence in terms of the recruitment point of view. I think Steve Evans has spoken positively about that during his time in charge. So I think that makes a difference, doesn't it? But I think also there's a really good culture that's been built at Stevenage over the last few years on some really solid industrious foundations. But I think what's probably going to be really important is that Stevenage maintain that defensive resilience that they've shown over the last few years, where you always feel like they keep a very high number of clean sheets, at least 1 in 3 over the last few seasons, possibly more than that at times. Hi, Matt.
Is it working now?
Yes.
Do you know what it is? A massive apology to all the listeners. It was the iPad. I was trying to get it on the iPad and I've gone to my phone. There we go.
Oh, there we are. All right, we'll go with that. Oh, yeah, lovely. We got there. But Stevenage spirit, isn't it? Battling on.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that Pigeon Sweens partnership at the back, holding on strong,
Exactly, yeah. So, Matt, we've spoken about Alex Revell's first season at the helm. Talk to me about where you feel Stevenage are at, kind of from an ownership point of view, because Phil Wallace is obviously a Stevenage legend. He's put in a lot of money for the club. So much of the success in the last few years, even the last sort of 20, 30 years, is down to him, because it probably wouldn't have been possible without on sort of size of fan base alone. But I'm wondering, do you see Phil Wallace staying as Stevenage owner for the long term, or do you think there's a possibility that for the club to move on to the next level, that it might need somebody different at some stage?
Yeah, I think, look, it's great that we've got someone in charge as Phil Wallace, because Phil absolutely loves the club and he always puts the club first. And I think Phil's done a brilliant job, because we kind of in this stage at the minute where we're trying to evolve and become a kind of top end EFL club. And the club put out an article yesterday where Phil was talking about investment, and that we've invested more into the playing budget and we've invested more into infrastructure and things like that. And And I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And we've got a really successful trajectory, I feel like. I feel like if we keep doing the things that we're doing and we keep going the way that we're going, I think we can be a very competitive, successful EFL club for a long, long time. And I think Phil's done a wonderful job in kind of building the foundations for that. I think if you look at, the sponsorship that we've got with Jolla, who are a very big kind of American LA area kind of based company. Where
Have you had a holiday in LA, Matt, to get everyone on
No,
board, sell everyone the Stevenage dream?
I wish I could. And maybe I will, Gavin, a year or two. But
I could
no,
see you in your open top Ferrari with a Stevenage.
I think having that on in LA would be the.
What more evidence would Brad Pitt need to?
And they'd all know their badge. They'd be like, "Oh, hang on a second, is that Stevenage Football Club by any chance?" Be like, "Yes, exactly. It is." But I'm going to leave this on, by the way. It's really cool. But no, I think. I think Phil Wallace has done an unbelievable job. We've evolved into a Football League club. And not just that, we've evolved into a League One club. And again, the article that I was reading yesterday that came out on the website about, we've got more investment for everything at the football club. I think we're going in a brilliant, brilliant direction. And I'm very excited to see where we end up. I think, if I'm honest, I think Phil eventually might sell. Maybe I think a few years down the line when Phil's kind of had enough, but I think he's done a brilliant job. And look, we want to become a top end League One club, and I think we're trying to do everything that we can to take us in that direction.
Yeah, let's hope you can do that. Well, let's have a look at the squad then, Matt. In terms of the goalkeeping department, you look where you're not going to retain Murphy Cooper because he's gone to Barnsley, hasn't he? So at the moment, Tay Ashby-Hammond is projected to be the number one goalkeeper. Do you think it'll stay that way come August the 2nd?
Yeah, most definitely. And here's one thing I will say about this kind of team that we're building. I said earlier, there's and this is why I think it's our kind of biggest season coming up. People are going to laugh at me saying that, but it's true, Gab, it's true. I think there's an opportunity for the next couple of years to be a really competitive team. And I think there's an opportunity this coming season to be a top half side. And I think we're doing everything that we can at the minute. We're creating a top half team. So we've kept the originals that we know are good enough. And we're trying to add to that bulk with really top players. So when you look at your Jordan Houghtons and you look at your Saxon Earleys who have got the ability and your Chem Campbells and your Phoenix Pass, we're trying to create a top half team. So, but no, to go back to your question on the goalkeepers, I think Tay Ashby-Hammond will be the number one. And I really want that for Tay. Tay's had a tough 2 years. And with Murphy Cooper signing on loan for Barnsley, I think it allows us to know that Tay's going to be the number one in goal. And let's see Tay Ashby-Hammond back to his best. And that's what I want this season. I want Tay to be our number one. I want him to play regularly. I want him to get a full pre-season, and he needs a full pre-season. And I think if we can allow Tay to have a full preparation, playing games regularly and going into this season, I think he'll be brilliant for us in goal again. I think it's his redemption arc, as I saw the other day. So, I think Tay Ashby-Hammond will be the number one.
Yeah, I think because I remember you saying I can't remember whether it was last year's deep dive or the one before, where you felt like Tay Ashby-Hammond was had real potential as a goalkeeper, and could even have potential to go on and be playing the Championship. And then shortly after that, Murphy Cooper came in and kind of grabbed that number one spot. But hopefully Tay Ashby-Hammond can reclaim that sort of status. But I guess what you'd be looking for is an understudy goalkeeper who could come in, play possibly 5 or 10 league games next season, but then or maybe primarily in the cups. But then if Tay Ashby-Hammond does get that big move the following summer, you've then got somebody ready to rock and roll and step up to that mantle.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think as well, I think it's really good that over the last few years when we've brought in kind of lone goalkeepers as they've been. I mean, Tay was originally a loan as well. That's the other thing, that they compete against the number one goalkeeper. But I really feel like this season, it needs to be Tay as the number one. And as much as we want, a competitive goalkeeper to come in and challenge Tay, I kind of really want Tay to play every week. So as much as I want that kind of backup goalkeeper to be competitive to Tay, I think it does need to be, as you say, Gab, an understudy to Tay. And I think we need to appreciate the fact that Tay's the number one. And yes, we want competition with a goalkeeper that comes in, but Tay's the number one. So I think for me, for a goalkeeper coming in, I'd like it to be a goalkeeper that's got a lot of potential that can be a good backup to Tay. I think that's important this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm presuming that Alex Revell is going to play primarily a 4-2-3-1 this season, because I remember when we were sitting here last year, we were uncertain about the formation, and we were almost speculating, what's it going to be. But in I think 34 of the games last season in the league, it was 4-2-3-1, so that gives us a pretty clear template of how to map out the squad. I'm going to look at the right back spot where you've got Luther Wilding. How's he been progressing over the last couple of years?
Absolutely brilliant, Gab. Luther's gone from strength to strength as a player. He's come on leaps and bounds over the last kind of 4 or 5 years. And really, we're looking at Luther now. And I think in my mind, really, I don't know what the other Stevenage Football Club fans think. I think Luther's got potential to go up a division eventually. And I think he's probably on path to do that if he keeps improving at the rate that he's improving at. And I think the thing with Luther is we know athletically he's absolutely amazing. Right?
Oh, sure.
Luther can take you up the pitch. He can follow back when needed. And I think with Luther defensively, and I'm gonna stick my neck on the line here. I think defensively, Luther Wilding could potentially be one of the best right backs in the division. I think with Luther, he's just needed improving in the final third. So when he gets into those areas in the final third, his delivery into the box, that's been something that has needed improving. But he's massively improved at that now. So he's on path to being that kind of complete right back where defensively we know Luther's just brilliant. He will be again this season. But offensively, if he can keep improving at the rate that he's improving at, he could potentially become a complete right back eventually. So, yeah, look, I think at the minute we've only got Luther in that position. We haven't got another right back. It's not like on the left side where we've got Saxon Early and Dan Butler because Kane Smith went. It's just Luther on that side. So I'm assuming Revs might sign like a backup right back potentially. But
well, Matt, what I was wondering about is you've given Louis Henry a professional contract, who's come through the academy. Now, I know he's been billed as a fullback, but I presume, given that I think it's Oliver Reeve is definitely a left back, so I've assumed that Louis Henry might be a right back. I think he's a relative of Ronnie, isn't he? Who was also played for Stevenage, son of Ronnie. So yeah, I'm wondering, does Louis Henry possibly get a chance in pre-season to show what he can do against some of those non-league sides?
Yeah, no, I think, especially in pre-season, I think a lot of those younger lads will get given a go. So yeah, I think Louis will be involved. And yeah, look, he's son of Ronnie, and he plays in that area. He can play centre half as well, Louis. But yeah, right back as well. I think he can evolve into. Again, no, I still have a feeling that Alex might sign a backup right back.
Sure.
Before the end of the season. But for sure, I think the one thing about Revs is Revs in the pre-season period, and we'll see it this pre-season, he does like to give the younger lads a go. And he gives the younger lads a full pre-season. I mean, we're going to, by the way, I can't believe I'm about to say, we're off to Spain in 3 weeks for a game against Swansea. I mean, I've never seen my team play abroad. So I'm so excited. And it's quite a mad one, actually, because I've got a relative's wedding that week. And then on the weekend, we fly to Spain. So it's just a bit of a crazy one there. Oh, that's unbelievable. But,
oh, my God.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But yeah, I think a lot of the younger kids will go on that trip. They'll play the whole pre-season. And Revs will certainly take a look at them for sure. Yeah.
Do you know what, Matt? If you're asking me for a prediction on how that position is going to unfold from an outside perspective, I think he's going to say, let's give Louis Henry some minutes in pre-season and just gauge where he's at, probably with the expectation that he's going to go out on loan to Hitchin or St Neots or whatever, whereas local to Stevenage. But then sort of just kind of gauge as a barometer of where he's at, because then that's the great thing about pre-season. And then maybe you can go for the other right back later in the window. But I think because Luther Wilding's just so reliable, I don't think it's a priority position. So I think that's a great position to be in. Central defence then, Matt. At the moment, I mean, that's been an area of depth for Stevenage in recent seasons. But I was kind of quite surprised to see that you've only actually got two senior centre backs under contract for next season in Charlie Good and Carl Pejani.
Yeah, the central defensive position for us coming up for this season looks brilliant, doesn't it? I mean, look, we know Pidge. Pidge is so dominant. I think actually, I'm going to make a prediction here. I think this upcoming season will be Cole Pidgiani's best.
Oof.
I feel like Pidge thinks that he can be a lot better, and I think this season he's going to be really dominant. And I think compared to that promotion season, although that was a different division, I think in League One, I think this upcoming season could be his best, actually. I really, really think that Pidge will have a really excellent season. But look, we know Carl is like the backbone to our team, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So important. You look at his statistics, they'll be exactly the same this season with how dominant he is aerially and how he is on the pitch. I think Charlie Good as well. Big season for Goody. I think Goody needed a season in the bag, and he's got that now. And I think this upcoming season, into the side, full pre-season, I think Charlie Good is a top defender at this level, and I think he'll have another big season. Exactly the same for Dan Sweeney, who I think, Sweeney's a great character. But the thing about Dan Sweeney as well is when you don't have Dan Sweeney in the side, you realise how much you miss Dan Sweeney. He's that type of player. When he's not playing, you think, God, yeah, imagine if Sweeney was in the side as well. And I think Dan will, again, with the other two, want a big season this season. He's a very big player. He's a massive character in the dressing room. And then we come on to Lewis Freestone, who has been supporting Dan Butler in that left-back role. But now that we've got Saxon early, it almost looks like Lewis Freestone's going to get an opportunity, potentially, to play in his natural role at the back. So there's four central defenders there. And when you look for every single one, Pidge, Good, Swing, Freestone, there's a lot of depth there. So I'm very happy about that kind of mould that we've got centrally.
I would hesitate to say that Lewis Freestone's natural position is left centre back in a four, Matt, because I think he came through at Peterborough, I believe, as a left back, and his best season of his career came at Cheltenham Town, where he played left centre back in a three. So I'm not quite sure whether he'll be able to sort of adjust to playing left centre back in a four, where there's obviously a bit more required in terms of being a bit more dominant, perhaps. Whereas if you're left in a three, you can sort of rely on the sort of middle centre half and maybe the right centre half. We'll see how he adjusts to that. I think I see him as a specialist left centre half in a three. I'd be curious to see how that unfolds. Just wanted to talk me through Carl Pejani's season last year. What makes you confident that it's going to be his best year? Do you feel like he's getting even better with age, like a fine bottle of wine?
I think potentially. Do you know what I think it is, Gab? I think we know as a team that we're at the start of potentially a really exciting few years, right? And when I look at what we're building for this season, and again, I've labelled it our biggest because I think we can become a top half team. I think players like Cole Pejani will step up the level, right? And Pidge strikes me as that kind of footballer and individual that when he needs to improve and when he needs to step up the level, he does it. He's that type of professional. And I think knowing what we're building for this season, he will be a better player. And I really, really think he's going to be unbelievably dominant in that position this season. Now, look, we have a good idea on the kind of system that Revs is going to play. Again, you've highlighted he had that 4-2-3-1. He likes to, do play other systems. But I just really feel that Pidge, knowing the team that we're building this season, I think he'll step up a level again, and I think he'll be fantastic. And I just love the guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. I just love him, Gab. He's so good. But I really believe in him. I think we're going to see an even better Cole Pejani this season. And to go along with that as well, when you've got Charlie Good next you who, realistically, I know Goody's played Premier League before and he's had a few injuries since. Heck, he even had one for us. But I think when you've got a player of Charlie Goode's level who's coming into this season and is probably looking at this season as his big season now to fully get back to the levels that Goody once was a couple of years ago, I think players like Cole Pigiani have to step up a level because he's going to have to, because he's got a player like Good. Dan Sweeney as well, Gab. You know, Sweeney's probably, you know, has had a tough couple of years. He had a bad injury last year where he did I think it was his medial ligament. I think he was out for like 6 months. He needs a big season. So the thing is, Cole Pigiani's looking, saying, Charlie Good's going to have a really big season this season. Dan Sweeney knows that he needs a big season. So he has to step up as it is. So that's why I think we'll see the best of Cole Pigiani this season. I really do.
Yeah, let's hope that's the case. I think what I like about Charlie Good as well is that he's probably a bit more cultured on the ball than Carl Pijani, but also has that aerial dominance. So I would expect them to forge a really nice defensive pairing. And I also think with how good Luther Wilding can be in terms of those 1v1 duels out wide and the defensive qualities that Saxon Early could bring at left back. So go on.
No, I was just going to ask you a question, Gad.
Sure.
Because there's been debate about this on our WhatsApp chats, and I've debated with all of our podcast guys. Now, I know the system that Revs likes. He likes that 4. He likes having a little bit of width in that middle, which I think he's going to portray this season with signings like Chem Campbell and a few others, etc. Sure, we'll get into. But when you look at our squad, right, and more so the back line, right, so let's have a look. Luther, Sweens, Good, Pidge, Freestone, Saxon and Butler. When you look at that back line, do you think that back line would be better suited in a 4, or do you think having Luther, Sweens, Good, Pidge and Saxon Early is a better back line than a 4 would be, in your opinion?
That's a good question. So
it's an interesting debate, and a lot of us Stevenage Football Club fans have been having it like in the past week.
I think Dan Butler, I'm not 100% on him defensively. I think he's a fantastic professional and I really like him going forward, and some of the deliveries are fantastic. I probably prefer Dan Butler as a wing-back to as a left-back in a 4. But I think Saxon Early, although in his first stint at Stevenage he was a wing-back, I think he is good enough defensively that you'd be more than happy with him in a 4. And I think with him and Wilding and their abilities to defend one-on-one, and then you've got Good and Pijani who are very dominant in terms of defending the penalty area, I'm not sure you need that third centre-back. So I would say, from an outside perspective, I would go with the 4 rather than the 3.
See, that, and I agree. Although when you look at Luther, Sweens, Good, Pidge and Saxon, you think, wow, that line is fantastic. Again, though, I think, and I agree with you, I think the thing about Saxon Early is he's something that Dan Butler hasn't got, and that is, I think, Saxon defensively, you're more, I think I don't want to say more reliable, because I think Dan Butler's a really good player, but I think defensively Saxon Early is really good. And I think if you've got that balance of both Luther and Saxon, who can go offensively really well and defensively really well, if you've got Pigeon Good or Pigeon Sweens or however in the middle, I think that back four's fine. It allows us to play more in the middle then.
But the other thing, Matt, is you've signed Jordan Houghton, who I think is a very solid holding midfielder. So I would say you don't really need the extra centre half if you've got two fullbacks who are good defensively, defending either side, and and at least one midfielder who's going to be very solid as well. So for me, I would go with a 4. I can certainly see the argument for the 3, but I would probably want Matt to be looking at being very, like, what I think what's been a real positive aspect of Revell's tenure so far is, do you know, that bit more aggression from the front. I think we've seen a bit more of that in his first season, and I think it's easier to sustain that when you've got a back 4 and an extra man further forward, as opposed to the back 3, where that can be a back 5 at times out of possession, where it's maybe harder to engage the opposition.
I agree. I really agree. I just, honestly, Gab, I just love this squad that we're building. I'm so excited for it. Like, I just really believe that when you look at this squad, it's not complete yet, because I think there's still another 2 to 3 or 4 signings to be made. But when I look at the squad that he's building here, and I look at our back line, and I see that he's signed Saxon, and I look at the midfield now, and you see Jordan Houghton, who's such a top, not even a League One player. He's like a promotional League One player. He's a top League One player, right? You look at Chem Campbell, you look at the players already there, like Dan Phillips and Louis Thompson, who are just at the level. Then you look at Phoenix Patterson, who's going to be potentially a very, very great signing for. So there's so much quality in there now, and I just really believe that we're building a top half team here. And when I look at the signings and I look at I mean, do you know what I've done? I've written on my phone, and I do it every year, but I've done it this year. I've written down all the squad and all the players. Okay. Probably my autism coming out, Gab. But I've written it down, right? And I was just looking player by player, and I was just thinking, geez, we're building a top team. If we can just get the forward line right, we're building a top side here. So, I'm really excited. And again, when I look at that midfield, and you made a great point, actually, you play the 4 and you've got Jordan Houghton sitting there. I mean, what a backbone for team to have. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, absolutely. I one thing that's really stood out to me about Jordan Houghton, I remember a game for Plymouth Argyle, where Accrington Stanley in the 15-16 campaign, where Argyle just missed out on promotion. And while collectively they were quite poor that day, Jordan Houghton stood out to me in terms of covering ground and being very defensively diligent. And he's kind of stuck with me since then. I think he won promotion the following year with Doncaster Rovers. And that was in League Two, I've just felt like he's a very reliable midfielder to have at the base at this level. So I think that solidity that he's going to bring. But then who's going to partner him? Because like you mentioned in central defence, where you've got 4 options, I would say 3, you would say 4 that you'd be happy with. I think there's 4 options in midfield that are very competitive, because you've got Harvey White there, who's started a lot of games last season. You've got Dan Phillips, who I love because he's so physical and aggressive and tenacious, and he'll go for those loose balls and really stamp his authority on games. You've got Jordan Houghton, who's got those solid qualities that I've described, and also Louis Thompson, who's got bags of ability and energy as well, and probably would be playing higher without injury. So I think that's some lovely dilemmas there for Alex Revell.
I completely agree. It's so difficult to know what he's going to pick, right? That's why I think the pre-season period is a really important period for us, because we'll get kind of telltales on who he prefers. And by the way, what a signing Jordan Houghton is! Like when we signed him, it was a bit of a pinch me moment, because I did a bit of research on Jordan. He's 29. He's not really that old. He's still in his prime years, right? He's 29. He's experienced a promotion at League One level. He's played Championship football on 70 appearances. I mean, that is a player who would potentially sign for like a Barnsley or a Bolton or not a Stevenage. I mean, that is a big signing. That when we signed him as our first signing for this season, I thought, wow, that is a statement. Clubs like us don't normally sign you Jordan Houghton. He's of a certain level. What a player. I've got no doubt he'll play every single game. And to be honest with you, if it wasn't, and I know we've got a lot of so-called captains in the team, but if it wasn't for Cole Piagiani, you could probably say Jordan Houghton is somewhat of a captain for this squad, really. But because we've got Pidge, obviously Pidge's the captain. But yeah, who plays alongside him? My God. I mean, yeah, you've named a few there, Gab. I think Dan Phillips, who's just a tenacious player. He loves getting on the ball. He loves being aggressive. You've got, Louis Thompson. I mean, how can you not play Louis Thompson? I think for me, if I was looking at it, a good partner for Jordan Houghton would probably be Louis Thompson. I think
is that how you look at it, Matt, as who's going to partner Jordan Houghton?
Yeah, I just, when I was having this chat with one of the guys. I was thinking, God, could you imagine Jordan Houghton and Louis Thompson as a 2 in League One? It's just gold, isn't it? But then Dan Phillips is such a good player as well. It's a real difficult dilemma, but it's a great dilemma to have. I've got no doubt about that Jordan Houghton will play every game. It really is who partners him. I think for me, if I had to choose, I think Louis Thompson as a partner for Jordan Houghton would be brilliant, because Louis is just such a experienced player, such a good footballer, and he knows the level so well. And again, I might be wrong. I think Louis similar age to Jordan Howard. I think 29, 30, something like that.
Yeah, I think it feels like he's in his 30s because he's been around for a long time. But I think he broke through it. He broke through at Swindon quite young, so that's why he's 29. But it feels like he's 33, kind of thing.
Who would you favour with Howard? Would you go Phillips? Because I feel like you really like Dan Phillips.
I love Dan Phillips. Do you know what it was? I saw, because I'm quite easily influenced by things I've seen with my own eyes. And I remember the game. I don't even think he started against Barnsley in September, but he came off the bench, and there was this one moment where there was a loose ball where it almost looked like somebody else might be favourite for it. And Dan Phillips just came charging out. And I loved the sort of the athleticism and the energy and the aggression. And, I just felt like I would absolutely hate to be that other guy that's in that 50-50, if you like, with Dan Phillips, because I'd feel like I just wouldn't stand a chance. So I see what you mean with Louis Thompson, but I love the idea of pairing Jordan Houghton's wise solidity, covering bases, kind of spotting things, tracking runners, that kind of organisational qualities, with Dan Phillips's instinct to just go, I'm having that ball. And I think between them, I think that would be a lovely pairing. But also, I think probably in terms of quality on the ball, I think Louis Thompson probably has the greatest range of qualities of the four midfielders that you've got. And then you've got Harvey White, who started the most games last season. So it's like, lovely dilemmas to have, isn't it?
It is. It's a really, really good dilemma to have. I love Dan Phillips. Again, I think we're going to see a better Dan Phillips this season. He's actually played a lot in the summer. Is it the CONCACAF, or is it I don't know what it is. He's been playing for his country a lot in the summer. Oh no, it's the World Cup qualifiers, I think, isn't it? He's been playing a lot for his country. He got an assist the other night as well for his country. He's been playing a lot, so he's been very active this summer. So I think he'll have a little bit of a rest. I think the players are back this week, but again, I think he'll be a big player this season. I want him to play a lot. I think he's made for the level. But yeah, what a dilemma.
Trinidad and Tobago, Matt.
That's the one. Trinidad and Tobago. He's been playing a lot. I think he's played like 4 games or so over the past month and a bit. So big player. And I think he'll play a lot this season. So yeah, what a dilemma to have, eh? God. Because that's it in my mind. I honestly, I'm going to make a very bold prediction here. And look, we don't know how players are going to turn out. I think Jordan Houghton is one of the best signings we've ever made as a Football League team.
It depends on, because it depends on the metric. Are we judging our pedigree of the signing at the time, or are we judging, because you can't judge what Jordan Houghton's actually done, because
I'm judging it on his career and what he's achieved and what level he's played. He's had 70 games in the Championship. He's had a promotion in League One where they won the league, Plymouth, didn't they, when he was a part of that. His credentials as a player, I think he could actually potentially be one of, I'm not saying these, it's difficult to pinpoint, but one of the best signings I think we've ever made. Obviously, look, we don't know how he's going to turn out in the division for us. I've got high hopes, but just a player with that credentials.
I suppose, Matt, it's because Stevenage historically, you've been very good at spotting, what's the word? The misfits, if you like, the players that maybe that are in non-league, or the players that
it's Colpigiani, isn't it? Colpigiani.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, Carpegiani had been relegated, but you'd been able to see how good he can be. And I remember the Graham Wesley side where he picked up players from non-league and it did so well. So yeah, in terms of pedigree, I think Stevenage is certainly shopping in a different market. Yeah. You're shopping at Waitrose nowadays rather than at Aldi, aren't you?
Or a Hyperdino if you're in Spain. By the way, I'm a massive lover of the Hyperdino. I wish England had Hyperdino. Just got everything, by the way.
Oh, nice. Lovely. Just wanted to circle back to central defence, because we've had a comment from the lovely Stevenage interviews. Morning, lads. Talking of the younger lads featuring, I think we'll see a lot of Ellis Bates in pre-season, who we saw at the end of the last campaign and who impressed. Bates is obviously a centre half. You hoping for big things from Ellis Bates, Matt?
Yeah, do you know what? He's actually someone that I was going to mention earlier when you mentioned Louis Henry, because I think Ellis will play a lot. Obviously, he's signed a professional contract too. So I think we'll probably see a lot of Ellis. Well, we'll certainly see a lot of Ellis in the pre-season. I think Ellis, he's kind of very similar to Louis Henry in a sense. I think we'll see a lot of Ellis in the pre-season. And then I think there'll probably be that potential where he goes out on loan for a year or two, and then he comes back. But yeah, I like Ellis. I like Ellis. He looked really good actually. Oddly, he played in the right back role when we saw him, and he nearly scored that day at Bolton on the last day. He got into a really good forward area and nearly scored. So I think potentially Ellis as well. Yeah, there could be a really good player there. We've got a couple of younger players that there's a lot of potential for the future. But you're at a difficult period with the youngsters because they need to go off and they need to play men's football and they need to develop and learn. And Ellis is in that bracket where he's a younger player. He needs to go off and he needs to play regularly. He needs to learn and develop and grow into his kind of adult body. Because I think Ellis is, 17? I might be wrong. But a very good player for the future. If he can develop correctly, very good player. I'm excited to see him in the pre-season. I hope he goes to Spain and he's involved with this. I'm sure he will be when they go over to Spain and play Swansea. It'd be good to see him.
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks to Mike Kahneman for the comment as well. In terms of, do we quite touch on Saxon early, Matt? Because I'm keen to see him back at Stevenage because he had a great first half of the promotion season, didn't he? Playing left wing back, rotating with Max Clark, and he. Since then, Norwich recalled him and sold him to Plymouth Argyle that January. But since then, he hasn't had things all his own way. I think he's had one or two injuries as well. But you must be delighted to see him back at the Lamex.
Yeah, wow, what a surprise. Do you know what? I didn't see it coming at all, actually, because it's been really weird, right, Gab? Since Saxon left, every year it's been one of these things where we'd go, oh, I'd have Saxon early back. I'd have Saxon back. And it's just never happened. And, I just assumed it probably wouldn't happen. And there was no rumours on it either. No one had heard anything. And I remember I was at the gym and then a couple like, oh, signing coming
you
out.
were at the gym, Matt.
I was at the gym. And the club tweeted and said, oh, new signing at 10 a.m. because it was after Jordan Houghton. And I was thinking, oh, who will it be? It'll be like a midfield player, a striker. Clicked on the tweet when it come up and it was Saxon early. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. But do you know what? What an intelligent signing that is by Alex Revell. And actually, it goes along with Saxon. But we said that if Revs can just get the signings right this summer, based on the potential we've got as a squad for the next couple of years, I tell you, we'll have a really special side. And he's got every signing bang on. And Saxon early is such a clever signing. It's like, he had a brilliant first half of the promotion season with us where he kept Max Clark out of the team. And actually, I think Saxon early, along with Cole Pidgiani, was probably the player of the season at that point, along with Pidge. And we were gutted to see him go. And he's had it tough, hasn't he? He's had a bad injury. He hasn't played as much as he had wanted to play. But that is such a great, intelligent signing because if we can get him in our system, get him back at the Lamex, give him a full pre-season, he knows a lot of players in this squad because he played with them in that promotion season, that he could get back to the Saxon early that we saw. And I think we will. I think we'll see that Saxon early back again in the system that Revs wants to play, along with the players that he's used to playing with, like Pidge and Sweens and Luther and all of them. But that is such an intelligent signing. And it is a signing that we needed as well. We needed a left-back that can both be really good offensively and good defensively. And that's something we've struggled with for a couple of years. And he provides both. And I love Dan Butler. I think Dan Butler's a fantastic player at League One level. But I think he's going to have a lot of trouble keeping Saxon out the side. I really do. I think Saxon will end up the starting left back one way or another.
Mm. Yeah, I could imagine that being the case. I think Dan Butler's a great player too. But by the way, I think Butler over the last couple of seasons, he's not really had much competition because the left back he had in his first season, the other left back you had in his first season wasn't quite up to standard. And then left back you had this year, Lewis Freestone wasn't really suited to it. So I think there's certainly in his first season he had to play a lot of football, didn't he, Dan Butler?
Yeah.
But I think when you keep him fresh, I think there is that potential for him to come in and make a difference for certain 10 to 15 league games next season. And I think the quality of deliveries that he can provide, and I think he's a great professional as well. So yeah, I'm sure Dan Butler can be a very valuable part of the squad next season. I wanted to ask you about Jordan Roberts then, Matt. He played most commonly on the right wing last season, although he can play on the left and also in a midfield role, as he showed in the promotion season. What kind of role are you expecting for Jordan Roberts this season?
Yeah, I think again another one of those players, as I've mentioned earlier, with swings and good and pitch. I think Jordan Roberts is an instrumental player for us, and I think this season Jordan needs a big season. I think the thing for Jordan this season, he's got a lot of competition this season now, and I think Jordan Roberts has been a comfortable player for a few years. I know that obviously when Dan Kemp came in the squad, we all assumed that Kemp would eventually compete along with Roberts, which he did. But now when you look at this squad and you see Chem Campbell in the squad, you've got Dan Kemp, you've got Phoenix Patterson, you've got some really good attacking players there now. Jordan's got to step up. And I think he will. I think Jordan is such a good player at the level. And I like Jordan Roberts. What I really like about Jordan Roberts is his qualities. He can take you from one end of the pitch to the other in quick succession. I want to see Jordan Roberts getting on the score sheet a little bit more this season. I think he's a player that can contribute with goals. And we haven't seen a lot of that over the last year and a half. And I want him to contribute a bit more this season. And I think he will. I think he will. And another thing as well, we're going to have a better squad for this season. And I think with a better squad, those certain players like Jordan Roberts will improve as well. So, yeah, look, I think this is a big season for Jordan Roberts. He needs to step up. It's going to be interesting to see where Revs puts him, whether he plays him in a central role, whether he plays him at a high right or high left position, as he has done a lot last year.
I guess he cuts. He's very left-footed, isn't he? So he's cut inside a lot if he plays on the right, whereas on the left, I imagine he'd be looking to kind of whip the crosses in, sort of that way.
He does. He'll play again. It's dependent on the system that Revs plays, but he'll play him in a higher position, whether it's left or right. I'm going to make a statement here. I actually think, I don't think he'll play here for this season, but I actually think Jordan Roberts in like a 10 role is really good as well, because he picks up balls in those areas and he's able to create and take people on. He is actually quite good in that area as well, but I think he'll be probably predominantly played as a high left or high right player. And I want him, do you know what I really want from Jordan Roberts this season? I want him getting the ball and taking people on. Really want him a lot more this season, getting the ball, taking people on and delivering. I think that's something that we can see a lot more of Jordan Roberts, but really important player for us this season. I think it's one of those things where how can Jordan Roberts not start? Do you know what I mean? He's one of those players. If he's on the bench, you go, oh God, Jordan Roberts is on the bench. In my mind, Jordan Roberts is 100%. He has to start for me. I think he's going to be a big player.
Well, let's hope that's the case. You've got Dan Kemp in the 10 role, which would probably be the main obstruction to Jordan Roberts getting a run of games there, Matt. How would you kind of reflect on Dan Kemp's first season at the Lamex?
Yeah, excellent. Right. I remember a year ago doing this with you, saying about the potential of Dan Kemp.
Yeah,
and he did, and he flowed.
You were like, he has to start, and I was like, Matt, no, you got loads of competition, and you're like, he has to start, and you're probably.
Do you remember that conversation? Remember that conversation, Gav? Look, 10 goals, ended up doing all the bits he did, and then got an injury at the end of the season, which stopped him. But I think now that Dan Kemp's got a season in the bag, and this season is going to be a really big season for him. Can he now step up? Can he improve? And can he continue all of those fabulous things that we saw in his first tenure? Again, I think Kemp, again, he's almost like, how can you not start him in that 10 role again, isn't it, this season? It's, again, surrounded by better players this season. How can he not play? So I'm very excited to see how Dan Kemp does this season in a better team, in a really, really good competitive division. I'm very excited to see how he plays. But again, you look at our squad, and this is what I love about this team that we're building. You look at the squad and you think, God, there's so many good players in there. I mean, any one of those attacking players can play one of those high roles or a 10 role. And it's going to be very interesting to see who Alex Revell favours and who he plays. Because when I look at some of those attacking players and I see, Jordan Roberts, Dan Kemp, Chem Campbell, who I think potentially could be a very exciting player for us. You've even got Phoenix Patterson now, who again, potentially has got the ability to be a very exciting player. There's some good players in those attacking areas, but I think Dan Kemp will certainly be a player that starts a lot this season.
Yeah, I'm intrigued with Campbell and Patterson as the signings, because from what I can gather, Patterson is going to be one who attacks the flank and is going to look to get crosses in. And at Fleetwood, there was a feeling that he could do that 5 or 6 times in a game and create some openings, and that maybe with a more aggressive centre forward, he could have ended up with a lot more assists. So there's definitely a feeling that he's got quality, Phoenix Patterson, and he's also played in League One before. Chem Campbell, I think you're buying a bit more his youth pedigree. Didn't get outstanding reviews at Reading necessarily, but he did have consistency of minutes, so he's not very injury prone, so that's quite good. I think he can be a steady player, but also the fact that he was, I think, quite highly rated as a youngster at Wolves would be the thing that makes you think, yeah, maybe there's another gear in this guy.
Yeah, I think again, Chem's a great signing for us. I think it's one of those players where, we announced Chem as a signing and it was like, God, that is, again, such an intelligent signing by Alex Revell because of his youth pedigree. He's got a lot of potential to do very well in League One. And look, he did well at Reading. I think, to be honest with you, I think over the last couple of years, it's been very, very difficult to do well at Reading with the amount of uproar that they've had off the pitch, and they've had a lot of, they've had deducted points. And I can imagine it's been, as a player, it's probably been very, very difficult to be at Reading the last couple of years. So I know that a lot of Reading fans haven't given him loads of praise, but I think it's been very difficult there for a couple of years at Reading. But under our system, I think he'll be a very big player. And what I really like about Chem Campbell, Phoenix Patterson, we've got width. And that's been something that I think we really, really need this season is width. And I think Chem will offer us that along with Phoenix, if Phoenix plays a lot. But I really like Chem. He's got pace, he's got ability. And I think he'll really suit our system. Again, do you know what it is? I'm just thinking for our attacking players. I'm just thinking, who does he play? It's like I look and I just think, God, who does he play in those areas? Because you've got Jordan Roberts, Chem Campbell, Phoenix Patterson. I know Dan Kemp will predominantly be in the 10. You just think, God, on any given day, he could play any one of them players. And Chem, I really like. Do you know what I'd like to see from Chem? Again, a little bit similar to Jordan Roberts. I'd like to see him contribute on the assists and the goals. I'd like to see him in that final third. And I'd like to see him get a full pre-season. I want to see him in pre-season. And I think Revs is going to play him a lot. I think he's been brought in to suit the system really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Just on Chem Campbell, this is what the Thaler Centre said. Good attitude and great availability, so he played a lot of games, but he didn't make an obvious impact in many. Lacks an obvious USP, not really a dribbler, crosser or speedy winger. Wouldn't say he's that creative or a big goal threat. Think he's probably at his best forming combinations with other players. Still, he has a good performance in him and had a fairly strong spell around November. On paper, his goals and assists isn't too shabby, but he wasn't a consistent provider across the full season. Overall, he's mid-table League One standard at the moment and could improve, but he plateaued last season, so not sure if he will. Solid enough signing for Stevenage. Interested to see how he does there and how he's used. Could be a left winger or right winger. So some positive comments in there. Not necessarily a glowing review, but I think we're not important to recognise we're not Stevenage aren't just buying the Reading Chem Campbell. They're also buying the lad that has quite a high profile youth pedigree. When he was at Wolverhampton Wanderers, he was quite highly rated as well. He's also been part of the Wales youth setup in the past too. So yeah, I think he's 22. He's a good age, so you would think that he's hopefully about to hit his peak in a year or two, and on for a spell of improvement. So yeah, he's had some grounding in League One over the last few years, and hopefully he's ready to make that step up.
Yeah, most definitely. I think as well. I think with Chem, I think that individual who sent that into you, I think they hit the nail on the head when they said it's a solid signing for us. It really is a solid signing. That for me, when we signed Chem, I thought that's a very intelligent, brilliant signing because there's attributes and potential there for him to do really well with us this season. And again, I'm excited to see how he looks in pre-season. Very excited. And also very excited to see, it's not just with Chem as well, it could be with the other attacking boys like your Pattersons. I'm very excited to see where Revs plays them in pre-season and what system they play in. Very excited to see that because at the minute, again, I'm looking around our kind of attack area and I'm thinking, God, there's a lot of players there now. So it's going to be interesting to see where Revs fits Chem in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the striker position is an area that I'm really curious about because at the moment, Matt, you've got 5 senior options in that position, but none of them I would say are really calling out to me in the sense that Jamie Reid had a brilliant 23-24 season. Maybe didn't quite hit the heights he would have hoped to last year, partly because of the injury that he started it with, perhaps. You've got Aaron Presley, who I think has been linked with the likes of Cheltenham Town in League Two. Louis Appere, I'm not quite sure if you're planning to sort of what Revs has in mind for him. Tyree Simpson, another one I could see being offloaded, and then Jake Young's probably one that you're hoping can find full fitness. So even though you've got 5 strikers on your books, do you think there's a possibility that a couple of those are going to be offloaded and you might actually bring one more in?
I do, yeah. So this is my observation of our forward line, right? I think Aaron Presley will be sold. And I think there's been rumours that Cheltenham, I think Walsall the other side as well, that are sniffing around Aaron Presley. I think we will offload one, and I think we'll look to bring in another brand new striker. And I'm going to say this about our forward line, and this is probably a kind of typical me thing to do to kind of stick up from here. I think our forward line got a lot of bad luck last year. Jamie Reid had a medical operation and was told that potentially he might never play football again. Louis Appere needed surgery, and Jake Young wasn't fit. And I think a lot of these players got a lot of bad luck at the start of last season. And I think these players are good enough for the level, but I think they need proper preparation. They need a full pre-season, and they need to come into the division having a really good preparation in pre-season. So I think Jamie Reid, Louis Appere and Jake Young this season will be much, much better than they were previously. So I think those 3 players will be absolutely fine. I think they'll have full pre-seasons. I think we'll see Jamie Reid back to the Jamie Reid that we all know and we all love, and he needs games.
Jamie Reid.
Do you know the song came on the other day? No. Me and Amy were having dinner out the other night, and it came on in Corraleo, where we are in Fort Ventura. I was like, Jamie Reid. I mean, dinner. It's like, oh, for God's sake. But
by the way, when I was, I used to be a season ticket holder at Birmingham City, and me and my friends, sort of along the row, used to sing the same thing for Frank Woodrow. It's a good football chant, isn't it?
It is. We'll do it a lot this season. I can feel it. But no, Reedy, I'm fully behind Jamie Reid to be back to his best this season. And again, needs a big season because we need these forwards to step up. And also, when I look around that 3, Tyree Simpson, right, who I feel for Tyrese a little bit. I think Tyrese has got bundles of ability. He's obviously still very young, and I think a lot of people forget that. when we look at Tyrese, I think a lot of people looked at Tyrese and thought maybe Tyrese was on the back end of his career. I think we'd heard Tyrese's name so many times that we just assumed he was like 28 or 29. He's like 22. So he's still really young. And I think, and this might shock a few of our fans, because I think a lot of our fans are expecting us to sell Tyrese. I think Tyrese is going to stay. And I think Alex Revell is going to say to Tyrese, look, you need to get yourself 100% in shape. And we want to see a big season from you, because last season didn't go to plan anywhere near that we assumed it would for you. So I've got Tyrese on social media. He looks in the best shape I've ever seen him. On his social media, he's trained throughout the whole of the summer. He's played for his national team in the World Cup qualifiers and scored a couple of goals as well. And I think Alex Revell might give him the pre-season and have a look at Tyrese, because I think deep down Revs was a little bit disappointed with how it worked out with Tyrese. And I think he'll give him one last roll of the dice in pre-season to see a big improvement from him that can be used in League One, because I actually think Tyrese has got a lot to offer, but I just think he hasn't been in shape, and I don't think he's been as fit as he's needed to be at the level. I really believe that.
I hear what you're saying, Matt. I agree with you. I think there is something in Tyrese Simpson. I liked him at Swindon. That's going back to 4 years ago now. I think since then, Tyrese Simpson hasn't, his career hasn't gone quite to plan. I think last season was a bit disappointing for Tyrese. I think his loan at his spell at Northampton Town the year before didn't go to plan. I think you would struggle to find too many complimentary reviews of him there. And I suppose what I would be careful of, Matt, is just giving people, because you feel connected to them and you want to give people that extra opportunity, you just kind of hand it out. And I don't think Tyrese Simpson has done enough in his career over the last 2 or 3 years to earn another opportunity in League Two, when there are other players who have come up from the non-league football and in League Two who are probably more deserving of football at this level. I think Tyrese Simpson's going to have to drop down a level and prove himself in League Two before he gets another opportunity in League One. From a human perspective, I would love you to be right. I would love Alex Revell to give him that opportunity and for his work in the gym and to really grab this opportunity with both hands, and hopefully he can do that. But I'm not sure that he's deserving of that opportunity, because I think he's had a lot of chances and I don't think he's taken them.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment, to be honest with you. I do think that we'll definitely sign a striker. I think 1,000,000% there'll definitely be a new striker. I think we need a new striker to come through the door, one that's going to offer us a lot in the system that we're going to play. Yeah, and I do see the point. And again, a lot of Stevenage fans would agree with you, Gab. I think 70-80% would say Tyrese probably isn't good enough and he needs to probably drop down a level, and it opens up a free space for us. Just got this funny feeling that Revs might give him the pre-season and have and kind of assess him once he's. I think the players go back this week and assess him once he's back, because he's had a really big summer of growth in terms of his fitness. And I don't think Tyrese was anywhere near his fittest last year at all.
That's partly on him, though, isn't it, Matt?
It is. And actually, it's something that was picked up by Alex Revell. I remember having a chat with Revs about it, and him saying that Tyrese wasn't near his fittest at all. And I'm wondering just if he's allowed him this summer to get really, really fit, and we'll have a look at him once he comes back in pre-season. But I don't know. Yeah,
well, we'll see. Well, good luck to Tyrese Simpson. Whatever happens, we give him our best wishes, and hopefully you're right, and he does get that opportunity and show what he can do. Jake Young, I think we've touched on him before. Obviously had a great period at Swindon Town, and then he's another one who got injured at one stage, wasn't he? So what sort of a season do you think is in store for Jake Young, and can he rekindle that partnership with Dan Kemp that he did enjoy at Swindon for half season?
Yeah, do you know what? I think this is like a common theme for me, right, Gab? You're kind of saying players, and I'm going, yeah, big season from this season. It's like every player you say, it's like, yeah, big season from this season. It's just another, isn't it? We talk about Jake Young, and I'm like, big season for him this season. So I think it's the same. I think Youngie. I think Youngie's got a really big season ahead of him. I think, Youngie again. I think he probably hasn't been his fittest. I think he probably took him a little bit longer to adapt to League One level, coming up the division. Then say Dan Kemp, who probably adapted a lot quicker. And I think this season with Jake Young, we need to get him super, super fit in pre-season. And I think this season we'll see a lot better of a Jake Young. And do you know what I want to see Jake Young doing this season as well? I don't know if he's going to start a lot, given the amount of new players we've got in those attacking areas. But Jake Young strikes me as a player that wants to take people on, that wants to shoot a goal. I remember at Swindon, when you watch a lot of Jake Young's goals at Swindon, he was taking people on, and he was any chance of having a pop on target, he'd have a pop. He was that type of player. I want to see that.
Just on that, Matt, one thing I feel is that with Jake Young's movement, it's a little bit off the cuff, isn't it? It's a little bit. He's happy to drop into those pockets, and he has that bit of unpredictability. And I just wonder for a lone striker. There's part of me that's excited about that, because it can create because he vacates those absolute slap bang central areas. It can create this sort of void of unpredictability where you've got a Jordan Roberts who can come into those goal scoring areas, and Dan Kemp and Chem Campbell, and it can create that sort of chaos. But then you also lose that sort of stability of the attack, where how you have that centre forward who's always there as that presence to occupy defenders and provide that hold-up presence. I don't know if you get that with Jake Young, and then it makes me wonder how he's going to adapt to being that lone centre forward as opposed to being part of an attack with 2 or 3 players. That's just one thing that I'm curious about.
Yeah, great. Look, I think Jake Young's going to be a supportive player this season. I think when you look at the final third and you look at the attackers, I think Jake Young will probably be a player that will probably come off the bench and offer a lot off the bench, potentially with 30 or 25 minutes to go. I think with his pace, that's certainly something. Now that Elliot Lister's been moved on, I think Jake Young could potentially fill into the position of coming on. And do you know what? I would, with Jake Young, I actually think he would suit a wide position.
Okay.
Given his ability, running at people, he's got a lot of tenacity on the ball. I actually think if we played a 4-3, that he would probably suit one of those wider roles on the left or on the right, where he's got the opportunity to take people on.
Well, one option I wonder about, Matt, is if you played him on the right wing, you could have a sort of team sheet 4-2-3-1, if you like, but you've got Chem Campbell, who could drift into a second number 10 to combine in the pockets with Dan Kemp. And then you've got Jake Young, who can start on the right, but actually push up into a second striker position with whoever the striker, with Jamie Reid or another out-and-out centre forward. And I think that could be quite nicely in terms of giving you that balance between, you've got the framework of a 4-2-3-1, but the flexibility of a kind of 4-2-2 sort of formation.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a role there for Jake Young. I really, really do. But again, he has got a lot of ability and a lot of potential. And again, I think he could be a really, really big player for us this season. Do you know what our team is like, actually? It's like this team that we've got, or this team that we're building for this season, has got a lot of potential, right? When you look at the squad and you look at the players, I've just said it throughout this whole summer deep dive of, big season for this player, big season for that player. But there's a lot of potential for this squad. If we can get it right, we'll have a fantastic team this season. We'll have a fantastic side, but we've just got to get it right, because a lot of these players have got a lot of potential to do well. I really hope and I believe that we will get it right. And I'm very excited to see players like Jake Young have a really good season, because he's got bundles of ability in those wide areas where he can hurt sides and he can contribute a lot to our attack. So, again, I think the pre-season period's a really, really big period for him. And again, I'm excited to see how he comes about.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you think Alex Revell has evolved, or has he evolved the style from the Steve Evans side that was very get the ball forward early to something a bit more Yeah, a bit more progressive, for want of a better word. I'm wondering if we've seen some evolution in that regard.
Yeah, well, look, I think you're going to see a lot more of it this season. But look, it's been very clear what Revs likes. We still have that element of where we bypass the midfield. We still have got that, but
Yeah,
it's
of
a lot
course.
more it's a lot more football. We look to get the ball between the lines quickly. We look to get your final third players off into the kind of end zone almost. So there are no
Very
set
American
differences.
time there.
I know.
Get
I'm
out to the
just
end
yeah,
zone now.
into the end zone. You know what I mean? But in for the touchdown. Uh, yeah, honestly, Hail Mary from Pig. But no, like how we get players off into that final third. So I think this season, I think there will be a clearer view of how we play. I think with a better squad, better players in his second season, Rebs, where, do you know what? I think this second season for him is absolutely crucial. I've seen so many times in the past with younger managers where they have their first season and they're able to establish certain things in their first season. But I always feel like the second season is where you really start to see how much that specific individual's come on. And there's been a lot of times in the past where we've had similar scenarios where we have a younger manager who comes in and in the second season, I mean, it happened in Rev's first tenure, just didn't come on and wasn't good enough at that time. And I think this season for him is absolutely crucial. If he can have a really good season this season as manager, I think we've got ourselves a very good manager for a long time here. So I think this season's massive for Alex. I think at the minute, he's getting it bang on. He's got every single one of the signings bang on at the minute, which is a really good sign. And I'm very excited to see the football that we play again this season, the system that we play, the style we play, whether he changes a lot of things that he learned from his first tenure. But I'm very excited to see what he implements with this team this season. But I really do think it's a massive season for him. A massive season for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of additions, Matt, just kind of looking, I mean, I've mapped it out as 4-2-3-1. We're not saying it's definitely going to be the go-to formation this year, but that's what we've gone with. I think you're going to need an understudy to Tay. I think you're going to need another right back, but maybe later in the window to give Louis Henry a chance. Maybe same with centre half, because I know Bates is quite a big talent, so you'd want to get a look at him in pre-season, but maybe another centre half. Certainly well stocked for left back and midfield. Maybe another wide forward who could play on the right, but somebody who's versatile, and another centre forward. So I'm thinking another 5 or 6 additions between now and the end of the window. What do you reckon?
Yeah, do you know what? Really coincidental question, because I've actually been writing down that as we've been speaking for the last 40 minutes, well, hour, over an hour. But I've written down here, where's my pen? Move my hat out of the way. So I've written down backup goalkeeper, yeah, to Tay, an understudy to Tay,
Yeah.
because I want to see Tay, the starting goalkeeper. I put a right back in terms of cover with Luther. So I think a goalkeeper, I think a right back is certain. I've put down here, I think in terms of the midfield, I agree with you. I think we're pretty much done in terms of, when I look at that midfield, I see Houghton, Phillips, Louis Thompson, Harvey White. There's a lot there. I think we're pretty suited. Now we needed Houghton. Now that we've got Houghton, we're sorted. I think there will potentially be another kind of winger or forward player. But I've actually written down 2 strikers with a question mark, because I've got a funny feeling he might sign a couple of strikers. I've got a funny
I
feeling.
don't know how many strikers you'd need though, Matt, because you've already got 5 under
Yeah,
contract. So how many are you going to?
yeah,
Presley, you're going to offload. So let's say
yeah.
4. And then if you
I
give it
think
to, so go on.
no. So I was going to say I think Presley will go. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got 4 at the
Um,
moment, but then
yeah.
if you sign 2 more, that would take it up to 6. Maybe if you made younger winger, then that would sort of reduce it to 5. But even then, it's a lot of centre forwards. I
Yeah.
mean, do you want to be looking at offloading Appere or Simpson, or
I
because
think I think he'll keep. I think he'll keep Louis Apre. I think Louis Apre needs a full pre-season. I think Louis Apre could be a really good striker for us this season. I think Aaron Presley will definitely go, and I think It really is dependent on whether he gives Tyrese an opportunity in pre-season or if he thinks, no, we need two new strikers and is able to bring in two new strikers.
But even then, Matt, I think it depends on whether you're going to be wanting to play two up top at times next season. Because even if you offload two of those strikers, that would still give you five if you brought in two more, and that's for one up top. So, it's a lot. It's a lot, isn't it?
I think potentially, what's going to happen here is I think there's been a little bit of a trend recently where we've signed a few kind of forward attacking players. And I'm just wondering whether Alex, he's got Reedy, he's got Apre, he's got Young. And at the minute, I think Presley's going to go and he's got Tyrese. And I'm wondering if he's looking at signing a couple more attacking forward players because we're not really going to sign too many strikers. I wonder if that might be the case. And then when you look at the attack, you've got Reed, Young, Apre, Tyrese if he keeps him. And then you've got Jordan Roberts, Phoenix Patterson, Chen Campbell, a bulk of attacking forward players to support the forward line. That might potentially be something that he does. But again, on my list here, I've got down four new additions. I think four more and we're pretty much there.
Yeah, no, I think I think you're pretty well stocked as it is. So expectations for this season, then, Matt. I think
Gab.
It's clear, Matt, that the target is to finish in the top half. Whether the expectation is the top half, whether you would consider it a disappointing campaign if you finished, say, 15th again, because that's the interesting distinction. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that from a hope versus expectation standpoint.
Great question. So again, I've labelled it our biggest because I really feel that we're at the start of a journey and there's a really exciting opportunity in the next couple of seasons to become a top half League One team. And I really feel in this division that I think it's going to be very tough. Again, you've got some bloody good sides in there, haven't you, this season with Cardiff, Plymouth and Luton coming down. Bradford coming up who have signed pretty well at the minute. I really think we will get in the top half. And I'm not sitting here going, we're going to be in that top six, Gab. I think we can definitely snag a top half position. 1 million, but I think the squad that we're creating, I think we can definitely get into that top half. I will say, if we're going to get into the top half, we need to be scoring more goals this season. Think so. Without a shadow of a doubt. We're going to have to, some of those strikers are going to have to, Jamie Reid, Apre, we're going to have to score more goals. But when I look at the squad,
that's what I would say, Matt. I think it's one thing to say, yes, some of those strikers were a bit unlucky last season with injuries and one thing and another. But what you don't want to fall into the trap of is just assuming that a full pre-season is going to make the difference and that they are going to hit the numbers that you need. And then that might not happen. So I think that you've got to say, yes, we're going to put some trust in these players to do well after a full pre-season, but we're also going to bring in one more who can elevate the quality of our front line.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're in kind of a bit of an unknown period with that, aren't we? With again, I was saying it earlier with Jake Young, potentially a big season. We've got a team here that potentially could be very good. We just don't know yet because we haven't started, we haven't kicked a ball. I think for me, a goal this season for the squad is to become a top half team, and we want to establish ourselves there for the next couple of seasons under this management team and this squad that we've got. So I think the expectation for this squad, I think they'll all want to be in the top half this season. I think for us as fans, that we always say, stay up as a minimum, stay in the division. But I really believe in this squad. And I look at what we're creating here and I look at who we've signed, and I really believe there's an opportunity to get into that top half. I certainly think we'll be around that 12th place position, but I really think we can get top half. I'm going to say, I really think we'll get a top half position this season. I really do.
Nice. But just to kind of clear up my what's the lowest acceptable finish for Stevenage? Because it's an interesting question, isn't it, for Stevenage in League One about what's acceptable, because you are one of the smallest clubs at this level in terms of fan base and stature, but you also do have a bit of external investment to sort of ask for more than mere survival. So what's the lowest acceptable finishing position for Stevenage this season?
It is a tough question, isn't it? Because if you offered me safety, I'd bite your arm off for it every
Really?
season. Well,
I'm surprised you would say that, Matt, after
no. My point is, if you said, you'll be in League One next season, I'd go, oh, brilliant. Do you know what I mean? It's that feeling of knowing that we're still in League One.
Sure.
But I think for me this season, the opportunity that we've got over the next couple of years to become a top half team, I would broaden the expectation a little bit more this season. And even though it's League One, and even though it's a tough league when you have a look at the sides, I mean, the fixtures will come out Thursday and you'll see us playing Cardiff and it'll be like, wow. Do you know what I mean? But I would say the probably minimum expectation for this squad, I think if they finished around 16th, 17th, I would still be okay. Yeah, we've been in a pretty comfortable position. I think if we were lower than that and we were down 18th, 19th, 20th, then I think for this squad, I think a few would be a little bit disappointed. But I think as a minimum, I think if we were in a 16th place finish, I don't think that's a bad finish. I still think that's a pretty solid finish for us.
That makes a lot of sense. So, as you know, Matt, I'm doing my 1 to 24 predictions in late July. One of my processes for that this year, Matt, is to rate each team out of 10 on 14 different categories that I think are going to determine their fate. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shout a category at you, and you can give me a number between 1 and 10.
Oh, that's horrific, because I'll probably just give you 10 every time.
I know.
I'm going to try and be realistic. Look, I've got my League One Boro bucket out. I'm going to be realistic now. I'm going to try and be realistic.
You'll try and take your Boro hat off.
Yeah, literally.
There you go. Right. So the first category is ownership.
Sorry, say that again, Gab. Sorry, it just froze.
Ownership.
Oh, 10. I think
10 for
us,
Wallace. Yeah. Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
Infrastructure.
See, infrastructure's a really good one because we've built the new North Stand, Bradbury. Do you know what? I'm going to give it a 10. I'm going to give it a 10
really?
for us.
10?
Yeah, for us.
10 for infrastructure. Playing budget.
I don't think I can give that a 10 because obviously we don't have... Or can I give it a 10 because we had signed Jordan Howard? And apparently we paid 200,000 for Felix Patterson. So maybe the playing budget is on that level. Playing budget. I'll be realistic here. I'll say we're not the biggest of clubs, so we're not going to have obviously the funds that others do. But we have done very well recently for a smaller club. I'll give you an 8.5.
8.5 for the budget.
I think that's pretty solid. Yeah.
Okay. Management.
So pretty much Alex Revell. Because I think this season's a biggest season for him, and we haven't seen it yet. Do you know? I'll give you another 8.5 for the management.
8.5 for the management. Okay.
Yeah.
Next one is the goalkeeping department. So Ashby Hammond.
At the minute, I would say an 8. I think Tay's exceptional, but we haven't got a backup yet. And again, we don't know what Tay's going to be like this season. So I'd say 8.
Okay. Defence.
No, that's probably our strongest point. With the addition of Saxon early. Do you know, I'm going to give that a 9.5. I think that's a real strong point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Midfield.
With Jordan Howard and the forward players. I would say, God, that's a good one. I would say 8.5 for the
8.5, okay, for midfield. Attack.
Attack. When you say attack, does that involve the attacking players like
let's include the attacking players, so the attacking midfielders and the wide men.
Okay, that changes it. God, because we've signed some really good attacking players for this season. And obviously the forward line as well. It's a bit. Do you know what? I'll go an 8.5 again, similar to the midfield.
8.5 for the attack. Depth for this stage of the window.
Oh, depth. Oh. Well, I'd say a solid 9 for the depth.
Solid 9, okay. Squad stability.
Oh, squad stability. I think with all the new signings, I think they've got a pretty. I'll go 9. Squad stability.
9 for squad stability,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Growth potential.
Ooh. I mean, we've got a lot of potential. God, these are. I would say this squad has got a lot of potential, especially with a lot of the players that we've signed. A lot of the players like your Youngs. 9 for me, Gab, for potential.
9 for growth potential. Next one is team spirit.
Oh, God, with a lot of the players we've got like Pidge and Thompson and Howson and 9.5 for our spirit.
9.5 for team spirit. Fitness.
Oh, the fittest bunch, 10. I'm sorry, I'm not actually just saying that biased. I mean, our group is just, they're a very fit group. Yeah.
All right. And finally, quality.
Oh, quality. Because that comes in different departments, that does, doesn't it?
I'm going like technical individual quality.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, we've got some really, really good technical players, haven't we? I'll go 9.
9 for quality. I think Stevenage would win the league on this metric.
Can I just ask, what is that like compared to other people's? Have people got like 6 and 7?
No, to be fair, I think a lot of people go quite high on their team. So I'm just, I'm enjoying your slight Stevenage bias kind of creeping into it.
Do you know what's mental? I've done that based on not being biased, in my opinion, anyways.
If you're biased, they'd be all 10, wouldn't they?
Because when I said 8, I was like, yeah, that's really good for me. And then 8.59, I thought, yeah, we're doing all right. Maybe it's absurd, mate. Unbelievable, honestly.
Oh, bloody, what do you like? Right. Some quick fire questions then, Matt, to finish off. What's the biggest reason to believe in Stevenage Football Club right now?
Wow. Okay. I think, and I'm going to split this into 2 bits, on the pitch and off the pitch. I think on the pitch, there's a lot to believe in. I think that we're creating and building a top half team. And I think that's been established by the players that we've kept and the new players that we've signed. And I think there's a lot to believe in with the manager and the management team. I think they're going to get better season on season. And I think you're going to see a better management team this season and a more kind of stable and accomplished manager in Revs in terms of he's had a tenure, he's in his second tenure, and he's going to improve. And I think off the pitch, I think it goes without saying. I think the way that Phil Wallace has improved the club, the infrastructure, the playing budget, all of those things. I think there's a lot for us, a lot for people to believe in off the pitch as well. So, yeah, I think there's a lot there.
Biggest reason for doubt? You're probably the wrong person to ask this question to.
Biggest reason for doubt? Do you know what I'd say? Do you know the answer I'm going to give you? And I think this is a fair answer to give.
Go on.
I think as great as this squad looks that we're building for this season, I think there could be doubt as well because there's a little bit of the unknown. And what I mean by that is there's a few players that I think people are still a little bit unsure about. Joe Young, Louis Appere, is Jamie Reid going to be back to Jamie Reid's best? I think there's a certainty of unknown as well. So I think people will have doubts of the fact that we're in that period of uncertainty where players could potentially be really good, but players could potentially not have improved as well. So I think that's a fair bit of doubt to have.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And finally, too early for a prediction, but give me a general feel for the direction that the seasons might be going in.
1,000,000%. And I'm stamping my flag in with my big Stevenage Football Club badge on, Fort Ventura collar with a bucket hat on. All roads are leading to us becoming a top half team. That's the process. That's the goal. We're creating that at the minute, and I'm very excited to be a part of it in our biggest season. So I believe we're going to get a top half finish, whether that's 11th or 10th. I think that this squad, under this manager who's going to get better, is going to get a top half finish. And it's the season I've been most excited for. I cannot wait for it. Bring on the fixtures. Bring on
It's
the
always
kit.
the season you've
Bring
been
on the
most excited for, Matt.
I'm telling you, Gab, it's the season I've been most excited for. Come on, the Stevenage Football Club. That's what I'm going for. Top half finish with our best team.
There you go. You've heard it there from Mr. Farley. Matt, such a pleasure to chat to you this morning. Thank you so much for joining me. Got some big plans for the Stevenage Football Club podcast next season?
Yeah, we do. Obviously, we've been doing some off-season episodes, and we're going to be back next week when I come back from holiday. We're going to be discussing the team, the fixtures, maybe the kits. Hopefully, they'll be announced this week, hopefully, which we haven't done yet. So we're going to be kicking it off. We've got loads of big things. We're going to be doing a lot more video content for this season. So we're going to do more interviews, more video content. We've got some big plans coming up for the Stevenage Football Club podcast. Got a new logo out as well, which has been branded new for this season. So, and we're going to start doing our own merchandise as well. So I know that's something that, bucket hats and tops and
send me
sandals.
the link. I'm definitely going to buy you.
Oh, mate, 1,000,000%. We'll send you the link, Gab, of course. But that's something that we're going to be doing this season. So very excited for it. And what a time to be doing the podcast on this big season. So they're the plans that we got.
Well, I'm not a Stevenage fan, but I think after talking to you for an hour and a half, I think even I'm excited for the Stevenage next season.
Do you know what, Gab? I'm changing the prediction. We're winning the league. We're winning the league, you lot. Cardiff, bring your best team. We'll have you at your place. We're winning the league.
Go on, the boys. Brilliant stuff, Matt. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Pleasure to get you on from the Stevenage Football Club podcast. Thanks to you for watching at home. If you like what we do over here and you want more Summer Deep Dive podcast content, get subscribed to us on YouTube and on Spotify. Get yourself subscribed to the Stevenage Football Club podcast as well. And we'll see you again very soon.